rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. Yeah, goodness. I don't know what the heck happened there, but my apologies. You know, they say when you're on the radio or when you're on television, you're not supposed to clear your throat on microphone, you know, when the microphone's hot. I hear freaking Mark Levin do it all the time, and he's got a popular radio show. And I think I even heard, Rush Limbaugh do it every once in a while, on some of his shows. So I don't know. Maybe it's just, I know it was a etiquette thing, but hey, man, you're getting me raw, unfiltered, uncensored. And, I can't even think of any other uns. Not undressed, though, because I do look dapper in these wonderful shirts. But that's not tonight's headline sponsor, but that's okay. You should go and check them out at theflagshirt.com. Anyway. Short little hit there real quick. All right, folks, let's get things kicked off. Tonight, we have the absolute fantastic, the absolute wonderful, the absolute, I love the sound of her voice, Bam. Bam is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. And place your hand over your heart and follow along with Bam with her tiny, tiny girl voice as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Bam, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting the pledge in your style, then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email address. Send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. I'm looking for number 21. I have 20 of these. I need 21. And then, of course, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, whatever. Anyway, yeah. So get yours in. And by the way, if you do it on your phone, I've been told by a heavenly source that if you do it on your phone, you use the share option, so you can record yourself on your phone using like voice memo or something along those lines, and then take that and hit the share option, and you should be able to share it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation as quickly as possible. All right. Tonight, of course, is Wednesday. That means it is...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. It's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And tonight, I'm getting down to the dregs and the bottoms of the Buffalo Trace that I went out and bought, about a month ago or so. So there it is. Buffalo Trace. Yep, it's in the glass, and it's in the, what do you expect? It's Wednesday. What do you think the glass is? Dun, 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 dun. That's right. True Grit Roots Network glass in the fantastic red, white, and blue. It is fantastic. And then, of course, there are the requisite stones in the bottom. That's right. It takes stones to drink with whiskey. So here we go. Requisite first sip right there. All right. Ooh, it's smooth. Anyway. Okay, what have we got on tap for you tonight really quick before we get to our headline sponsor? Well, I've got some judicial and constitutional lessons for you, as well as a couple of other things. There's been a study that has found that apparently climate change does affect your brain, but not in the way that you would think. And also some more Somalian malfeasance here in the United States, although this is not in Minnesota. It's actually in Maine. We'll get to that, and then hopefully maybe we'll talk about the Fed and the Fed's rate cut. They cut the rate this afternoon, last time for the year. Also, too, I have a new book on my desk here for consumption in the near future. I've actually got a couple of them. I've been grabbing a few of these. So, in particular, though, there are a couple that I'm really interested in. I've been talking about it here. So yeah. And also, don't forget tonight's Pet of the Week. I did get a quick submission toward the end of the day here. So, quick submission. So I didn't have to use my emergency backup. Now, Ms. T kind of got a little miffed yesterday when I mentioned that I wanted a Pet of the Week. And I want to make something clear. See, Ms. T sent me a Pet of the Week, but she specifically pointed out that it needs to be used for emergency use only. And so here's the thing. I am holding that back until if I make a call out to say, hey, I need a Pet of the Week, and I don't get one, okay? That's why I'm holding it back. It's not that I'm trying to, mess you up, Ms. T. It's just you basically told me it's for emergency use only. Emergency use, in that case, in my mind, is I didn't get one when I asked. So if somebody sends me one and I don't have to use the emergency one, I'm going to put it back in the emergency box. It's sort of like in emergency, break glass. One of those things. You don't break the glass if you're not in an emergency. And so because of the fact that I received a Pet of the Week after I requested it, that emergency is still back in my back pocket or in the behind the glass, in the break glass. So that's why. All right. Yeah, she just sounded like she was a little miffed. She was like, well, like right now it's an emergency. No, it's not an emergency if I get one. Anyway, love you, Miss T. All right. So, all right, let's get it on with our headline sponsor tonight. Because we are drinking out of the True Grit Roots Network glass, it is, of course, True Grit Roots Network. And boy, that didn't work out too well because I didn't freaking have this up. Anyway, it is True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is our place on the web for you to go and listen to some fantastic tunes, man. I'm telling you. We are an all-digital internet radio station that has two channels right now. We have Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio as well as Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. And you can listen to both of them right through your browser at tgrn.net. All you have to do is go and go to tgrn.net right here. I'm telling you, this is the head page right here. This is the home page. This is the page that you come to. You just scroll down a little bit and you find the players. There they are. See those two play buttons? One of them is right up next to my head here in the video. But all you have to do is click the button and you can start streaming the sound right through tgrn.net. You can also pop those out, too. There's a little pop-out option. But you can pop them out and put them in their own page so that it's not affecting your page when you navigate away or whatever. Or what you can also do is you can go to our page and click on one of these two buttons, whether it's the App Store or the Google Play Store, and you can download the apps to your phone or your mobile device, whether it's a tablet or, your phone or whatever. And you can download either one. I say download both and switch back and forth between them when you're trying to listen to things. Hi, Barb from Ohio. On a farm too. That's even better. But as I was saying, Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, download the app from the App Store or Google Play. Both of them, download both of them. And, yeah, we definitely want to try and avoid popping out in public for sure. But yeah, go and do that and listen to both. We appreciate it. Believe me. And hey, if you want to show off your support for either one, the other, both, or just for True Grit Roots Network, all you need to do is go up here to the headline or to the head menu, right up here at the top of the page, TGRN. I'm flashing it right now. That's the shop button. You click that and you'll be taken to the store, shop.tgrn.net, and you can go ahead and grab a t-shirt, hoodie, or cap if you're looking for something fantastic. We've got them in various colors and, of course, the various logos. I personally am partial to the black TGRN True Grit Roots Network t-shirt right here. I also like my hoodies, so I might go and grab this black TGRN hoodie right there. You can also get it in red, or you can get it in gray. And you could do that anywhere with all of the logos that we have. You can also grab a cap with a nice leather. Here's one in black. Look at this, a TGRN True Grit Roots Network in leather in black. That's just fantastic. You can go and grab that in a cap. You can also grab it in gray. Gray looks pretty good. I kind of like the black or the brown, kind of brownish tan. I don't know if I really call that tan, but anyway, go and check them out. Go to shop.tgrn.net. Get yourself some swag and show off your support for your favorite internet to digital radio station known as True Grit Roots Network. That's tgrn.net. We are based out of Austin, Texas, and we thank you for your support. All right. Well, I mentioned these books. I've been buying some books. Mrs. Whiskey is not happy with me. I've got a bunch of books. Right now, our bookshelves are overflowing. She's like, you need to get rid of some of the books. Yep, no. Anyway, here's one, which I'm starting to read right now. This is called Hijacked, Our Republic Unless We Can Save It. It's by Peter Calfee, Calfee, and J. Kevin Dolan. You can look at this. It's actually a fairly short read. I've kind of started it, but I haven't been able to go too far into it. But it's a fairly short read. It's a nice book, very well annotated in terms of where they got all of their information. And then, of course, in the books that I am interested in reading, only because I already know the answers to these questions, but I want to see what other people have found, because that's kind of the way I work. Research. But this one, did America have a Christian founding? So this one here is, yeah. So there you go. And that's another book that I've got up. And this one just came in, The Faiths of Our Founding Fathers. Yeah, so this one I got in particular because I am seriously, obviously I've been telling you that we are a Judeo-Christian nation. So that's why this question comes into play. Did America have a Christian founding? And the answer, of course, is yes. But I want to see what they say. And then, of course, the other thing is The common misconception is that the deists of our country were all deists, and that meant that they're not God-fearing, that they meant for our country to have a separation of church and state, and actually that is incorrect. And so that's where this book comes in. I want to see where they've done their research and everything else to tell us where the faiths of our founding fathers came from. So those are my reads. As you can see, I mean, I've got a pretty big stack here, and that's just what I've got on hand. I've got others that are scattered throughout the studio here that are other reads that I need to do, and I need to, obviously, but, winter time, bad weather, kind of have to sit down and do all that. What's this poo-tang? What are you talking about, poo-tang? Anyway, all right. So, yeah, there you go. And that's something that I'm looking at in terms of going, all right, let's take a look at one of the mistakes once again. And I say mistakes, although some of this is actually on purpose. But apparently there's another offender that has assaulted or attacked. So, yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, this individual has had repeat arrests and no consequences because that's the way the Democrats roll. Well, this person assaulted a Chicago cardiologist. This cardiologist was attacked inside of an elevator at the Northwestern Memorial Hospital by a man who has been arrested more than just a dozen times this year. Oh, just this year, a dozen times alone, according to court documents and police reports. This reported, okay. Anyway. Okay. I'm sorry, Barb. I'm a little lost, but that's okay. I don't want to get too far off the track. All right. So reported by the Gateway Pundit, apparently the 42-year-old doctor entered an elevator when she was allegedly followed by the assailant. And that assailant, I can just tell you, he is a black man. But he allegedly went in and repeatedly punched her in the head until she stumbled backwards, covering her face with her hands as the beating continued. Now, Chicago police reported that this individual had been arrested 12 times in 2024 alone in the same area surrounding the campus. So records show that he was arrested 7 times this year and 6 additional times between 2020 and 2023. So let me do some quick math here. 12 times in 2024, 7 times this year, that means 19, and 6 additional times between 2020 and 2023. So that puts his arrest record at 25 times of being arrested. 25 times being arrested between 2020 and now. And, yeah. So Chicago reported that the victim suffered multiple bruises, abrasions, and hematomas to her head, face, arm, and hand. Authorities said that the doctor apparently had no prior contact and that the attack was unprovoked. Do we really want these people to be running around on our streets? Is this what we want, people? Is this what we want? I mean, you would think that putting this guy into jail would, take care of it. That incarcerating this individual would be the one to take care of it. Well, apparently, one of the security officers at the campus identified the man immediately after reviewing footage, noting that there was approximately 30 plus prior incidences at that hospital where the man had to be removed, according to a detention petition. Another officer stated that he had had incidents with the man approximately 2 times a day over the last 19 months. And at the time of the assault, Pops was out. But sorry, I didn't mean to say his name. Anyway, the man was out on pretrial release stemming from an October trespassing case at the Streeterville residential building. In that particular incident, he allegedly attempted to escape from a police station lockup. Yeah. Repeated encounters with this man and the circumstances of the attack have renewed attention on Illinois' Cook County's handling of violent repeat offenders and pretrial release policies. It's really pretty simple, folks. I mean, I'm just gonna flat out say it. There is this thing known as the power of deterrence, okay? And the power of deterrence is basically goes like this. You make the resulting response of an event worse than the gain made by the event. And so, I mean, essentially what you do is you take these people and you put them into prison, lockup, you get them away from the general public. You put them in you get them away from the general public. These people, I mean, this guy was arrested 25 times in the last 5 years. 5 years, 25 times. For those of you, that's an average of 5 times a year. What? And he's still walking around? And he was able to do this. Now, where's the judges? Where's these kinds of things that you know, where are the people who basically say, hey, look, you know, we're on a progressive system. What happened to, like, the 3 strikes you're out rule? Whatever happened to that? Apparently, Democrats don't believe in that crap. Apparently, Democrats believe that, hey, you know, anybody can be redeemed. I'm sorry, but statistics say otherwise. Statistics demonstrate that the majority of especially violent crimes are done by repeat offenders. People who have already done these heinous crimes, and they go ahead and do it again and again and again. This isn't a debatable issue, people. The recidivism rate for violent offenders is astronomical. You can't just go and, like, put them away. Generally speaking, these violent offenders, they've already crossed the threshold. They've already crossed the line. They don't care anymore. And especially when you have somebody like this, where, you know, the Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, publicly argued against increased incarceration as a response to crime. However, that increased incarceration and, hey, even going so far as to doing things like the death penalty when it's needed, that actually brings crime down. Johnson was making remarks alongside Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's another frickin' moron. Johnson said, we cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. Oh, I bet we can. I bet we can incarcerate, and I'll bet we can do the death penalty and get our way out of violence. Absolutely. Because we have already tried that, and we have ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. Well, that's because you slapped them on the wrist and you let them back out. He continued, the addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. And then, of course, he says things stupid. He goes, it's racist, it's immoral, and it's unholy. And it's not the way to drive violence down. Oh, I know of another way to drive violence down. And I'm serious. I mean, how many times can I just ask this question? And it's kind of rhetorical because let's be honest, I'm not really on like a phone call or, someplace that somebody can respond. But I'm watching the chat. Okay, I'm watching the chats. How many times have anybody seen a bully in school who finally had somebody stand up to them and smack them? Physically smack them, defending themselves. How often did you see that bully all of a sudden rethink and stop? Believe me, I've seen things like this. I mean, this is literally the way to get these people to quit. And you're sitting here talking, the old adage, the only thing that'll stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, is right. See, there is this thing in our brains. It's known as the power of deterrence. It is known as when you are the biggest dog in the room and all of a sudden you're taken down by, well, I don't care whether it's a smaller dog or a bigger dog, it doesn't matter, but you're taken down. All of a sudden you start to realize that, oh crap, I'm no longer the most powerful person in this place. And this is basic, seriously, this is basic animal nature, human nature, animal nature, all of them. I promise you, if these guys are taken a notch or two, and by the way, too, keep in mind, this idea where you go off to prison and you get 3 squares a day, you get internet privileges, you get libraries, you get to go back to school, you can earn your degree, all of these different things that we have attempted to try and make available for these people. No. You got to make it harder than what they did. That's how it works. That's how it works. Anyway, these Democrats and these idiot leftists, they're not going to learn about this. They're not going to understand any of this. And by the way, that attack is apparently still under investigation. So, yeah, we're going to keep seeing this, especially in Democrat-run cities, because they have those thought processes where they're like, oh, you gotta try and be good to them. Well, they just had conflict in their heart. Really? No. I'm sorry. Well, here's another thing that the stupid Democrats in Congress are doing. Apparently, 2 Democrats have decided to file articles of impeachment today. The first one is from Representative Haley Stevens. She is a Democrat out of Michigan. She has filed articles of impeachment against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Stevens accused Kennedy of failing in his role and criticized him for allegedly neglecting science and public safety. I'd like to understand what law he may have broken. Like, seriously, what law did he break? What high crime or misdemeanor did he perform? Just sitting here and saying that allegedly he neglected science. He hasn't been in office long enough to affect public safety here, folks. I mean, seriously. I don't get it. I don't understand why these people. apparently because of the fact that they impeached Trump over a simple ass phone call, the Democrats feel like they can impeach a person for just about anybody. For those of you that aren't students of U.S. history, impeachment was a tool that was to be used sparingly. Sparingly. Oh. Palms, you got to go back and watch last night's episode. Last night's episode had that. By the way, that last night's episode covered a little bit of Jasmine Crockett running for Senate now in Texas. So you got to go back and look at that one. Anyway, moving on here. The other one, and by the way, responding to the impeachment move, the Health and Human Services spokesperson, Andrew Nixon, stated, Secretary Kennedy remains focused on the work of improving Americans' health and lowering costs, not on partisan political stunts. There you go. There you go. That's the way that works. So, yeah. All right. Also, this guy. Oh, let's see if I can find him here. Oh, yes. Here he is. Oh, do you remember this guy? Here, I'm just gonna put him up here. Yes, because you remember this guy? You got like a bad freaking I don't know if that's his real hair or not. But you remember this guy? He's almost as bad as like Al Green. Al Green of Congress. He's just as bad. Well, anyway, this guy filed articles of impeachment again against Donald Trump. Yeah. What's his name? Shri Thanistar. I don't know. Anyway, he's also from Michigan. What the hell do they put in the water in Michigan? I don't know. But anyway, this guy has filed impeachment, articles of impeachment against Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. That's right. Pete Hegseth. Now, the India-born congressman cited false reports alleging that Hegseth ordered a secondary strike on cartel operatives aboard a drug boat who had survived an initial attack. He alleged in his bringing of articles of impeachment, Pete Hegseth has been using the United States military to extrajudicially assassinate people without evidence of any crime. Former military attorneys have come out and asserted that his conduct constitutes war crimes. We cannot allow his reprehensible conduct to continue, which is why I have filed these articles to impeach him. Okay, folks. Let me just point something out here. See, there's this guy. He's an admiral. Yeah, he's the head of U.S. Special Operations Command. And, he approved both the initial strike and the follow-up actions. And this guy, this admiral, Frank Bradley, has repeatedly stated that Secretary Hegseth never gave the alleged kill everybody order cited by this idiot. Oh my gosh. Yes, we're gonna impeach him on a lie. Well, that's what they do, is they impeach on lies. They impeach on bullshit. Admiral Bradley provided video to a congressional panel showing that the two cartel operatives who survived the initial strike, they climbed back onto the wreckage of the boat and started to gather the vessel's cargo. They gathered the vessel's cargo. Well, that indicates that they're trying to save the drugs that we were looking to, get rid of. Which, by the way, how anybody could think that a boat going like 100 miles an hour on the water, oh, that's just a fishing trawler. When it has, like 55-gallon drums of what I'm assuming is going to be drugs. I mean, seriously, come on. It's just, seriously. Oh, they were fishing. No, they weren't. I don't know of anybody that goes fishing in the ocean that travels at 100 miles an hour on the water. Anyway. And, to be honest with you, Palms brings up a good point. Why is nobody talking about either the pilot being a bad shot or the munition that was sent didn't do it right the first time? Why is nobody asking that? Anyway, I don't know. But, yeah. So the admiral stated that because it appeared that the two survivors were attempting to contact other nearby cartel boats in an effort to salvage that shipment, the survivors were deemed to still be in the fight and were considered valid targets. Yeah. So... Yeah, I don't know if anybody's seen images of these damn drug boats, but I got to tell you, they're like a cigarette boat, and you have the two guys at the back who have like 4 outboard motors lined up to make the boat run that fast. Okay, just think like Miami Vice cigarette boats. I mean, I know I'm dating myself going back to the 80s for this show, but go take a look at Miami Vice. I mean the old Miami Vice. The cigarette boats with the massive big engines, there's 4 or 5 of them or whatever. How can anybody sit there and say, oh, yeah, those are fishing boats? No, there's not even a single fishing, there's no cabin, there's no cover, oh, my gosh. I don't know. I just can't imagine these idiots. Oh. Anyway. Why they are doing this, I have no idea. And not only that, but you also have to remember, somebody actually even argued. They were like, well, a boat can't travel 1,000 miles over the water. They can if you modify their fuel system to have multiple gas cans, or multiple gas tanks, or fuel tanks. Some of these engines, now those ones were outboards, but even some of the inboards are actually running on diesel engines. I mean, yeah, you're not fishing, well, like Sleazy says, is you're not fishing with 4 $15,000 outboard motors. Yeah. Not to mention, there wasn't any fishing gear that was evident in the images prior to the being blown up. They also don't think about the fact that, maybe they're doing this Pony Express style. For an example, they run the boats as far as they can go, having enough fuel to get back, and then transfer stuff out in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, transfer it, and then that boat goes and continues the rest of the way. So maybe these boats can do 1,000 miles, but they're doing 1,000 miles where in 500-mile lengths or something like that. Anyway, these people. Oh, I'm just telling you, these people are so idiots. They're so stupid. And yes, they breed and they vote and they do all kinds of other stuff. Oh, yeah, Palms. There have been, I think, something like 17 or something along those lines that have been disabled, shot at, blown up. Who knows? Yeah. It's just the one on September 2nd that they're focused in on, because the rest of them, the first hit took care of it. So it's just the one on the 2nd, on September 2nd, that they're doing it. So, yeah. Anyway. Okay. Let's go over. You know what? I want to talk about this wonderful, beautiful elixir that I drink every single morning before I move on to my next story. I drink coffee every single morning. I have a 16-ounce mug that my kids gave to me. It says "Father like no other." It's one of my favorite Father's Day gifts. You know, instead of a tie, which I've got a bunch of ties. I'm looking at them right now. I got a bunch of ties, but this gift gets used every single day. And it's filled with this wonderful morning pick-me-up known as coffee. And if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee yet, now is your shot. The 1775 coffee starter kit is available in a limited number of units. And in each unit, you'll be getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee. So, and by the way, that Vitality mushroom coffee gives you clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, as a part of this kit, you'll also be receiving my personal favorite, the gold spoon clip. The gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. It has a frother strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's opinions. And let's be honest, it really isn't that hard to do for your mother-in-law's opinions. And you'll also be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. All of these things come up to $170 worth of coffee and gear. But you're getting it for the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. And spoiler alert, let me just tell you, this coffee, it is. Go to the numbers 1775coffee.com/studio. That's 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. By the way, that slash is the question mark key on your keyboard, okay? Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and get bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit today. All right. Well, you know, for as much judicial lawfare that we have running around in this country, and for as many judicial judges, more like activists, who don't follow and understand, and perhaps haven't even read the Constitution, they certainly don't understand it from a historical perspective, for certain. But these activist judges, thankfully, are being overruled at times, more often than not, by smart judges on these appellate courts. So apparently there was a lawsuit with regards to Trump's ordering of Hegseth to put a ban on military dudes in dresses. And this is now worked up to the through the U.S. District Court to the appeals court, and the appeals panel shot it down. They actually overruled the district judge. So the district judge, Anna Reyes, who is a foreign-born, Biden-appointed, I don't really care, lesbian judge, I don't really care about that either. She previously worked as a lawyer to fight, and this is part of the problem, to fight the first Trump administration's immigration policy. See, what happens here, folks, is that these people drawing these lawsuits, okay, are going around and shopping for judges. And because they go and shop for a sympathetic judge. That's why we're getting a lot of these activist rulings. They're not constitutional rulings. Okay, first of all, they need to understand that constitutionally speaking, there is no way that a federal judge, federal district court judge, created by Congress after the Constitution was ratified, or even suggested to be ratified, that the district court judges cannot do things that Congress does not itself have the power to do. And see, that's the problem that I have with this, is that these federal court judges do not have the jurisdiction to be able to overrule a constitutionally created branch of government, meaning the presidency in this particular case. See, these federal court judges are what they're called lower courts. The only court that constitutionally has the power to be able to block either the president or Congress from passing laws is simply the Supreme Court. That's the whole purpose of their being enacted. And if you read Article 3 in the Constitution, it literally states lower courts such that Congress may create and abolish. Okay? So all of these lower courts that Congress is making, Congress can't just, because Congress can't overrule the president necessarily. They can impeach him, but our idea of separation of powers, Congress can't tell the president what to do. Just like the president can't tell Congress how they do their job. And so these people, these federal district court judges, do not have the constitutional power. Regardless of whether they say it's under Article 3, it's not. It's not there. They do not have the constitutional power to issue these injunctions that are basically broad in nature. That is a 20th century development. Okay? So anyway, this judge, Anna Reyes, decided in March to indefinitely block the enforcement of the second Trump administration's ban on, well, basically, this is what they are, transvestites in the military. And she was suggesting that it likely violated their constitutional rights. I don't think that there's a constitutional right. Maybe somebody who, I don't know, might have a copy of the Constitution can sit there and say, I don't think there's any constitutional right to serve in the military. Yeah, I don't think there is. I know this. So she suggested in her March 18th ruling that the military ban is soaked in animus and that it was her responsibility as a judge to keep the executive branch at heel. And here's the problem. She acknowledged as a part of this that she was having a pernicious nature of judicial overreach. So she not only knew that she was overreaching her authority, she did it anyway. Now, there is no constitutional right to serve in the military. There is no constitutional right to dress in women's clothing. There is no constitutional right to being transgender. There is no constitutional right to not have the military adhere to certain standards. Because what a lot of people don't seem to understand is there's a reason why there's military standards. See, the military has to be, above all else, an extremely effective fighting force. You cannot do that if, A, you don't have the people in the actual physical shape that needs to, they need to be in order to be able to fight hours and hours and hours a day. And not to mention the fact that just having somebody in the unit who does not conform to the standard military protocols is detrimental to the cohesiveness of the unit itself, and it can endanger operational effectiveness. This is why you don't have somebody who may be, injured in the military. Somebody who may have to have special considerations, like somebody who is a clear diabetic or somebody who cannot wear glasses. In fact, for the longest time, the military actually had, and I know this for a fact, but the military actually had a ban on wearing contacts in the military. You had to wear glasses. See, anytime you need any kind of what is known as, thanks Jarhead for this terminology, maintenance medications, okay, you are considered non-deployable. When you are injured, you are considered non-deployable. I went through a couple surgeries while I was in the service. I was non-deployable while I was recovering for that. There were a couple of field exercises that I couldn't go on because of the fact that I was non-deployable. See, all of these things, whether it's a medical condition, a mental condition, whatever kind of condition that you want, it all messes with military unit cohesiveness and effectiveness in the field. If you have somebody, and trust me, I know this too, if you had somebody who does not conform to the height weight standards in the military, you get put on, well, back then it was called the Fat Boy program, but you get put on to a program and you become undeployable. And when you're undeployable, you are no longer of any use to the military. That's why when women become pregnant, there are times where, the military has frowned upon women getting pregnant because of the fact that they become undeployable at that point. So this idea, for whatever reason, this idea that this judge is going to be like, oh, no. A man who dresses in women's clothing, they are perfectly fine to be in the military. No, they're not. There are so many other reasons as to why this is totally ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. Okay? Now, on Tuesday, a 3-judge panel at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia handed the administration a proper and correct win. It was a 2-1 decision. It stays Reyes's order and greenlights the enforcement of the ban. Now, they cited, as a part of this, by the way, they cited the Supreme Court's 6-3 ruling in the United States versus Skermeti, which upheld Tennessee's ban on sex-rejecting genital mutilations and sterilizing puberty blockers for minors. U.S. Circuit Court judges Gregory Katsas and Naomi Rao, that's R-A-O. Yeah, see, it didn't. I'm laughing because my closed captioning didn't catch it up. Anyway, both appointed by President Donald Trump, which again I don't care, ruled that the War Secretary Pete Hegseth's ban on trans-identifying military members likely did not violate the Constitution and the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment. Nor does it actually trigger any form of heightened scrutiny about it. So, yeah. Anyway, Katsas, K-A-T-S-A-S, actually emphasized that even if the policy contained a classification triggering some form of heightened scrutiny, decades of precedents establish that the judiciary must tread carefully when asked to second guess considered military judgments of the political branches. So even he is basically saying, hey, even if there were something that might classify as heightened scrutiny, the jury or the judge, the judicial branch has to tread extremely carefully because constitutionally speaking, and this is correct, okay, totally correct, but constitutionally speaking, judges can't dictate what the military does. They can't. Because the military falls exclusively under the executive branch in terms of its management. And that the only thing that falls under Congress has to deal with gaining the money in order to raise the Army. That's it. That's it. So sitting here and trying to judge this whole thing, I mean, anything, I'm serious. Even if you have troubles with a particular individual, like for an example, you have an individual who is consistently causing trouble in the unit, that can be under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that can be an offense that you could get discharged for. You could get tried and discharged for it. If you're a constant clown and that affects military effectiveness and readiness and so on and so forth, the military cohesion or unit cohesion, man, you're gone. That's just it. You're out. And anybody who hasn't been in the military at all, which, by the way, I was accused by a total, complete, utter moron on Facebook that I didn't know what I was talking about when it came to the military. They, in fact, stated, I digress here. We're going to go down the trail, the off the track trail. But they even accused me of only serving milkshakes and fries. Yeah. I got a DD 214 to prove it. But anyway, I digress. So this here in Trump's January 27th executive order, it was titled Prioritizing Military Excellence and Readiness, says consistent with the military mission and longstanding DoD policy, expressing a false gender identity divergent from an individual's sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service. Beyond the hormonal and surgical medical interventions involved, adoption of a gender identity inconsistent with an individual's sex conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life. So there you go. Now, the Pentagon subsequently released guidance stating that military service by service members and applicants for military service who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria is incompatible with military service. And that is true. I almost didn't make it in to the service itself for a various number of medical reasons, but one in particular was that I have very low arches. And history has shown that when you don't have a really good arch in your foot, you are prone to having foot problems like plantar fasciitis and other foot issues. Now, that's a physical malady, if you want to pronounce it that way. But that possibly could have made me non-deployable, which means that I would have been rejected. I would have been, in the World War II terms, code 4F. I wouldn't have been able to go in. And that was a reference to Marvel's Captain America. Anyway. So, yeah. So there you go. Now, Katsas continued and suggested that Reyes's claim that the Pentagon's policy did not advance legitimate interests was more or less baseless. He said that she gave no sound reason for overriding the secretary's considered judgment, that she premised her claim saying that medical studies now overwhelmingly conclude that gender dysphoria is highly treatable on a declaration from one single doctor who simply stated in one sentence and without any kind of citations that gender dysphoria is highly treatable. Whoa. Oh, that was a hell of a call out. Yeah, I finally got a doctor. I basically went and shopped around, just like everybody shops around for judges. I shopped around for a doctor, and the doctor goes, yeah, gender dysphoria is highly treatable. Well, prove it. I can't. I don't have any citations. I don't have any studies. I don't have anything. I just say gender dysphoria is highly treatable, and you're supposed to accept it. It's true. Just like, by the way, it is when you look at Trump and you say, oh, yeah, Trump raped kids. Oh, where's the proof? Well, we don't have it. It's just somebody said on, CNN that Trump rapes kids. Oh, so I'm supposed to believe that Trump rapes kids just because some rando on the internet decided to say it on CNN. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, yeah. Anyway, Katsas also added that she, meaning Reyes, the judge, had downplayed evidence of greater mental health issues faced by transgender individuals, and that is a fact. So there you go. The court, by the way, also rejected Reyes' suggestion that the policy is rooted in animus against transvestites, noting that she looked beyond the Hegseth policy itself to derive the animus from various statements made by the president or other officials, an approach the Supreme Court had previously rejected. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway. Yeah. So, thankfully, that was a win for the administration. Well, now, I love this person. No, I don't. I'm being facetious. She's an activist. God, I hope that there's some legal way to basically say that because she was appointed by the auto pen of Biden, that there might be a way to get her off. To get her off the Supreme Court. Oh, let's hope that happens sometime in the next 3 years. But I digress. Yes, Ketanji Brown Jackson is back. Ketanji Brown Jackson, who has literally no experience, no knowledge of, couldn't even identify what a woman was. She has no knowledge of or understanding of the Constitution of the United States. When they were doing oral arguments on Monday of Trump versus Slaughter, that's that FTC Okay. Well, folks, that told me what I needed to know. All right. Come on. There we go. Well, folks, that told me what I needed to know about my connection. So this particular connection I can't necessarily utilize because it doesn't handle internet bumps as well as the other one. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be interesting to check out. And of course now, and there we go. Oh boy. Anyway, all right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, guys. It looks like my internet connection bounced, and this particular way doesn't connect. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. Jarhead kind of mentions time to get Starlink. Starlink, unfortunately, does not transmit. Latency is an issue with Starlink and streaming like this. Okay, so yeah, that's a problem. I wish I could, but Chevy, fire the IT guy. Yeah, I'd be firing myself, is what's happening. But hey, I had a feeling that this was going to be, the night that something was going to happen. And so this was an attempt to try a different way, a different methodology of streaming, and it didn't work. So, so there you go. Anyway, all right. So, yeah. Okay, back to the FTC. So, here's the thing is that even the FTC chairman, Andrew Ferguson, issued a statement at the time that Trump fired Rebecca Slaughter, that he says President Trump is the head of the executive branch and is vested with all the executive power in our government. I have no doubts that his constitutional authority to remove commissioners, which is necessary to ensure democratic accountability for our government. The Federal Trade Commission will continue its tireless work to protect consumers, lower prices, and police anti-competitive behavior. And that's true. Because let's be honest here, okay? Again, looking at the Constitution, the executive branch literally is the president. All executive power is vested in the president of the United States. There is no, we're going to have, a panel of people. No. All executive power is vested in the president of the United States. So, Ketanji Brown Jackson questioned whether or not presidents should have the authority to remove the leadership of certain independent agencies. Okay. Who in their right mind can tell me, and by right mind, I mean who out there has the intelligence? Is there any, and I know all my Whiskey Warriors do, because they're the smartest listening audience in all of the ethosphere, but is there any place in the Constitution, anywhere, that states that there are independent agencies outside of the three branches of government? Meaning Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. Is there anyone, anywhere, that can point to me where within the Constitution it says, oh yeah, we're going to have, unelected bureaucrats and they're going to be independent and, they're untouchable by government. I want to know where in the Constitution it states that Congress has the ability to protect certain agencies. Yeah. Well, Jarhead's already hit it. He's like, nope. There is none. There is none. And 3 Chevy points out that all agencies serve at the pleasure of the president. That is correct, folks. So realistically, there is no other answer other than SCOTUS basically saying, hey, the president can fire whoever he wants, whenever he wants, as long as the law is being implemented as Congress has written it, and the president is taking care to ensure that laws are fully and faithfully executed, that's it. There is no other answer. There's no other answer on this. And Ketanji Brown Jackson continued and says that Congress had established structures where nonpartisan experts, including scientists, economists, and regulators, hold responsibilities that she argued should not fall under direct presidential control. I suggest that Ketanji Brown Jackson needs to get a copy of the Constitution of the United States. 15 minutes. 15 minutes to read this thing. That's it. That's it. Now, she went even further, and she reflected on concerns that she actually linked to the founding era. Oh, my God, this is just, wow. She goes, that has some issues, some matters, some areas that should be handled in this way by nonpartisan experts. That Congress is saying that expertise matters with respect to aspects of the economy and transportation and the various independent agencies that we have. So having a president come in and fire all the scientists and the doctors and the economists and the PhDs and replace them with loyalists and people who don't know anything is actually not the best interest of the citizens of the United States. Except there's only one problem, folks. There is nothing in the Constitution that basically states, when you create this law, you're going to consult with people who are considered to be the experts. No, this is an activist thought process. This is what an activist says. Oh, you can't question the experts. The experts are experts, and you can't question them. Bull honky, I can't. In fact, if those experts were smart enough, they would be like, hell yeah, question me all the time, because I may be an expert today, but something can change and I won't be an expert tomorrow. But no, there's nothing in the Constitution. Just bringing this constitutionally speaking, there is nothing in there that says that Congress itself, we need to defer to the experts. No, we don't. There are certain times when, yes, you might consult with experts, but the onus and the buck stops with the President of the United States when implementing laws for this country. See, that's the thing. The legislature, which is made up of Congress, 2 houses, 535 members, they make the law. They create the law. But they do not implement the law. The person who implements the law is the president. Now, if the lawyers want to demonstrate within the law, hey, this is how we want it implemented, then by all means, write it in there. But if all you do is just say, hey, create a commission called the Federal Trade Commission, and this is what it does, and and then hands it over to the presidency, who is supposed to implement it the best that they can. Like 3 Chevy points out, experts built the Titanic. And what happened with the Titanic? It hit an iceberg and it frickin' sunk. So, yeah. Now, she added to this, she said, these issues should not be in presidential control. So whose control are they supposed to be in? Unelected bureaucrats? You mean to tell me that you would have agreed, and she probably would, but you would have agreed with Dr. Fauci, who basically said that, that whole 6-foot thing that we made everybody do, it came from out of nowhere. We just sort of made it up. Oh, and by the way, those surgical masks that we made everybody wear that, caused potential problems with oxygen, caused our young children to have developmental, sounds bad, but retardation because they couldn't see expressions on people's faces. Oh, and yeah, by the way, I paid for and I approved paying for that gain of function research that happened over in Wuhan. But, yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm sorry. But this is just ridiculous. Oh, my God, this woman. Yeah, these issues should not be in presidential control. They don't need to be in anybody else's control. And to be completely honest, things like transportation, by the way, outside of maintaining post roads, which is in Article 1, Section 8, there really isn't anything else. I mean, granted, that seems to be a broad-based thing. But what else are we talking about here? Regulators are just responding to the laws that were created. The laws that were created by Congress. I mean, this is ridiculous. She goes, can you speak to me about the danger of allowing in these various areas the president to actually control the transportation board and potentially the Federal Reserve and all of these other independent agencies? There is nothing in the Constitution that states that we need to have independent agencies by non-elected bureaucrats. That is not what the founders intended, woman. And yes, I am calling you a woman because I actually know what a woman is. There is absolutely no way that we should even have any independent agencies and unelected bureaucrats running things. See, that was Woodrow Wilson's idea. See, he thought that Congress should be so far off the beaten track that Congress itself, should be very minimal, and that there should be a overpowering executive and bureaucrats should run the country. You know who runs countries? Bureaucrats who run countries? That's called socialism. That's called communism. That's called Marxism, Leninism, Stalinism. That's where you get the bureaucrats in there. She also continued, and this is even worse, she also continued by asking why Congress's judgment should take precedence, noting that one would think under our constitutional design, given the history of the monarchy and the concerns that the framers had about a president controlling everything, that in the clash between those two, Congress's view that we should be able to have independence with respect to certain issues should take precedence. No. That's the whole point in separation of powers, lady. We don't want overarching unelected bureaucrats running things. That's the whole point. These people, I'm telling you, she lacks the education and the knowledge to understand what the Constitution actually states. They don't get it. And by the way, there is a opinion piece in the New York Post. I'm going to show it to you because I don't have time to walk through it, but you should probably grab the link and check it out. There's an opinion piece in the New York Post that basically states what I've been stating, which is that a Supreme Court win for Trump in the FTC case would restore the founders' original design, which is exactly what it needs to be. See, this is where they need to understand that if the president says, hey, I am the executive branch, you're fired, they're able to do that. They have to be able to do that. Anyway, let's hope that the Supreme Court can actually do what it needs to do. All right. I've got one more article that I want to hit, and we're not going to get to some of the other stuff because I've been going off, and we had that little blip in the middle. But I've got another article that I'm going to hit before the pet of the week. So here, let's talk about this. So Zohran Mamdani He is doing basically the same thing that AOC did and some other elected officials have done, where Zoran is giving out advice on how to evade ICE agents. And our Secretary Noam, she has called it out and said, you know what? Zoran Mandani could be violating the Constitution because he posted this video giving residents advice on how to evade ICE agents. And technically, she's correct because the individual, when you swear in as mayor, a mayor is an executive. The executive is supposed to ensure the implementation and enforcement of law. And so Mamdani is basically outlining the encounters with ICE, pledging that his administration would safeguard immigrant communities while protecting the city's constitutional right to protest. He says, as mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. Well, here's part of the problem there, Zoran. That not only that, by the way, he also incorrectly said some things, because here, he offered guidance for immigrants who may encounter ICE. First, he says, ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or private area of your workplace without a judge's warrant signed by a judge. That is a lie. All an ICE agent needs to have is reasonable suspicion and an inclination that if they do not take you into custody at that moment, that you're going to rabbit, that you're going to run. That's all they need. They just need to think that you're going to take off because of that altercation or that interaction is the word that I was looking for. And see, that alone under immigration law means that they can take you into custody. They can also search any place without a warrant if they have reasonable suspicion. See, this is not probable cause. Because unfortunately, what a lot of these idiots don't seem to understand is the protections under the U.S. Constitution only apply to American citizens. They do not apply to illegal aliens. And so therefore, there is a little bit more latitude when dealing with illegal aliens by our border enforcement. Because technically, and I need you to understand this, technically, regardless of where that individual physically resides, meaning however far they're inside the border of the United States, technically and from a legal standpoint, and insured the same way by SCOTUS rulings, they haven't technically crossed the border because they have not entered legally. Therefore, they are considered to be able to be searched. They are considered to be able to be arrested without a warrant. This is why the law was written the way it was in the immigration law. They are allowed to do these things. All they need to have is a reasonable suspicion that, one, you are not in compliance with federal law, federal immigration law, and two, that you're going to run if they don't take you into custody right now. Now, because he is spewing this crap, and he's basically saying if ICE does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, you have a right to say, I do not consent entry, and the right to keep your door closed. That's incorrect. That is incorrect. That is false. And by doing so, he is actually violating Title 18, United States Code, Section 111, which is assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. You don't have to do anything violent against these people. You don't have to do anything other than stand in front of their vehicle. You haven't assaulted their vehicle yet. You're standing in front of the vehicle. You are automatically in violation of 18 U.S. Code 111 by impeding ICE agents. End of story. Okay? End of story. All you have to do is intimidate. You don't even have to, forcibly assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes. That's it. He is interfering with their agency. This is why I don't understand why these governors of these states and these mayors of these cities telling the police officers, saying things like, hey, just stop them from doing things. Why they're not being arrested under this law, I have no idea. That is totally and unequivocally the law that they should be using here. It basically states that anyone who is impeding, intimidating, interfering, any person designated under a different section of the title, which ICE agents are a part of, while engaging in or on account of the performance of their official duties. End of story. End of story. He can't, they cannot, literally, an illegal alien cannot claim protections under the Constitution because technically they're not even if they are physically here, they are not legally have crossed the border because they didn't enter properly. And so the court system all the way up to SCOTUS has agreed that, hey, doesn't matter where you are, you're still technically not in the United States. End of story. God, these people, I'm getting sick and tired of these Democrats who are twisting and warping the law in such a way to make it to where, yeah, this is a problem. Anyway, all right, folks, let me go ahead and get tonight's Pet of the Week up. So let's see. Pet of the Week, I think, is this number right here. All right. Tonight's Pet of the Week comes to us courtesy of Coco. So Coco has this new little visitor. And this new little visitor that has come around, let me go ahead and get it up here. Get this little visitor up here. She's got a new little visitor that's running around on her property. This little visitor has now been named Earl. This is Earl. Earl the Ermine. Yeah, ermine is supposed to rhyme. To pronounce it, you're supposed to rhyme with vermin. It's Earl the Ermine. I would have called it the ermine, but that's just me. Anyway. Yeah, see, even the closed captioning wrote it the same way, regardless of which way I pronounced it. But anyway, so Earl showed up, apparently, and just to give you some background, Earl is also known as a stoat, is a member of the weasel family and usually lives in the northern areas of North America. They're great hunters of rodents. They go after things like mice, for an example. In the summer, they have a brown coat. In the winter, it turns white. And apparently, they have a distinctive black-tipped tail. Now, Coco wasn't able to get the distinctive black-tipped tail in any kind of a picture, but that's okay. We're not gonna penalize you for that. So, Coco apparently let her dogs out a few weeks ago, and Earl started hissing at the dogs from under some car mats that Coco had laid out on the ground, as you see in the photo behind me. And that's how they met him. Now, her son took these pictures. So it's almost as though Earl was posing for the pictures. Now, her husband, Coco's husband, said that he knew he saw something white running through the fields and was happy to find out what it was. So here is Earl, the ermine. There he is under the deck. And as you can see, he's obviously not afraid of the humans who are there. So there's Earl eating something on the ground, or sniffing something on the ground. And there he is again under the deck. So that is Earl the ermine. And Earl, by the way, apparently is a cutie, according to Coco, and looks like everybody else. Cute little feller. Yeah, Earl the ermine. So there you go. And that, oh, this one's kind of blurry, unfortunately, but came close. You almost got the tail. Look over here in the corner. You almost got the tail in the shot. It's just outside of the shot. It was almost there. But anyway. So that's Earl the ermine. Cute little wild creature. That's the best shot of him right there. I got to tell you. There's Earl. Hi, Earl. How you doing? All right, folks, that is it for tonight's show. And if you have a pet of the week that you would like to see featured on the program, go ahead and send it in. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will go ahead and get you queued up for next week. Next week's Pet of the Week. We will see you tomorrow night. Oh, before I go, make sure that you head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. And before you take off, too, don't forget, hit those thumbs up, thumbs down, or in the case of 3 Chevy, a thumb sideways. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.